Hello, this is National Chess Master R. Rats to continue my video series on the correspondence team match at chess.com between my video lessons group and the team CARPE DIEM. This was played on board 18. Our man is Tactiquero versus Patrick-Zerafa. We have mid 2000 versus low 2000 rating. And Black follows theory. Black does follow theory here, but I don't think he picks a very popular and promising line for Black. I'll explain when we get there. The most common move to play is e5 right now, and usually white castles, and then black plays knight c6, and then the main line continues d5, and this knight drops back to e7, and black will endeavor to undertake an eventual kingside attack. White will try to expand on the queen side, and I've covered this in a lot of my videos. Good explanation of the strategy is in video lesson 002 on my playlists. But he plays a move which is rarely seen, and it looks reasonable, but there's a problem with this move that I can explain better from my own experience. I used to play this, 40 years ago, and the problem is that the black knights just don't get coordinated here. That knight on d7 needs to be on e7 because it has so much more flexibility there. It can eventually get to g6. It'll support f5 on the f5 break. There's a lot of reasons for it. What's going to happen here, we'll see, is white's just going to start picking up a little bit of a space advantage, and then we'll talk about it a little more when it comes to the strategies both sides should employ. And they're still following theory. And here, theory says to go ahead and push this pawn. Now, at first I frown on that simply because, you just spent 2 moves moving that pawn there. Why didn't you go there in 2 moves the first time and save a tempo? Let's back up for just a second. Maybe what black needs to do is just bite the bullet and take this thing. He could get an isolated backward pawn. Let's see. But black gets some squares. There are some variations of the King's Indian defense where black can get some play here. Okay, now the queen has to back up. Okay, let's put her back here. And now this bishop finds a square. Okay, now, yes, white can put some pressure on d6. I don't know how much this is theory, but I'm just talking from a general feel of this opening. I know that a lot of times black will do what I've just done in order to get active squares for his pieces. Usually he has a knight on c6 in this line. Let's put this rook on d1. Okay, now we're threatening to capture a pawn. So let's see, knight e8. I was thinking about this and wondering about c5 in response. Oh wait, there's a loose pawn here. Okay, well, that changes things slightly. Okay, we have to put the queen here. And now, like I say, we go ahead and play bishop e6. I suppose black could also opt for queen c7. The point being this clears d8 for the rook. But we may still run into that annoying pin. Let's see. Rook d8. And now c5. Okay, obviously you can't take the pawn. But, here the knight can drop back to e8 if need be. That will help defend this square. And then it's just a matter of time to develop this bishop. It's something you sit and analyze, and you look and see if it's been played before. I mean, it's the most popular move. There must be a reason why black is playing c5 here. Probably this move just gives white too much. But that's at the higher echelon of play, the grandmasters, the international masters, and so forth, dueling it out. These are the games that reach the databases, and you put Magnus Carlsen in a position like this against an ordinary grandmaster, and he's going to demonstrate why pawn takes is a bad move, and then conversely, Magnus could take black here and prove how black can achieve equality. There you have it. If you have these two players matched, CD5 is probably a perfectly playable move in a correspondence game. Anyway, he opts for c5, and that locks up the pawn structure in the center. Now we get to the next part of the what black is supposed to play for we have this pawn structure, are these breaks, and what white's supposed to play for are these breaks. But we're going to see something different here. So at first I was thinking they're doing things wrong, but let's just see how it continues. Okay, now he's preparing f5, and here white abandons the idea of trying for f4, at least maybe supported by a pawn on g3, and plays g4. The idea is to let things open up on the king side. If pawn takes, he'll take here. Suddenly the e4 square becomes available for white, and maybe white can generate his own attacking chances on the enemy king. Probably it's black's best choice, my guess is, because black kind of just sits here and just gets slowly but surely gets a bad position, and we'll see as we move on. Okay, now black's trying to get b5 in, and once again white breaks from the routine. He should be trying for b4, a3 and b4, and he's not. But what can black do? As I was mentioning earlier, these knights are just they don't work well together. And how does this knight get in play? If it goes to f6, where does it go next? And it's blocking the f pawn if black ever decides to try to get f5 in. To get to it could get to f8, but then where does it go from f8? G doesn't go anywhere except maybe h7 if you weaken your king side and push that pawn. So black opts to put it on b6, and again, where does it go next? Well, we'll see where it goes next. It goes to a8, and what black is trying to do is get this b5 break in. And white just kind of stops it, plays a5, and the point being that the moment black does break with b5, white's going to capture with en passant. And what's happening now is white's just picking up a space advantage. Aside from the fact that the center is locked, white does control just a wee bit more space. White does have 3 pieces up on the third rank. They're not doing much there. This knight is not threatening to go anywhere forward. He can only safely retreat. This knight can go to a4. But that's about its most active square, unless you want to try to put it on a2 and support a b4 break if you're trying to redeploy the knight somehow that way, although I'm not quite sure where it goes from there. But white's just got a little more mobility here. And it's hard to suggest a strategy for black. I would say just shuffle his pieces around, but the problem with that is white's just going to slowly but surely improve his position, and black has to wallow in his misery, so to speak, and keep shuffling, and eventually white will find something. So now white improves the position of his knight, threatens to anchor it in on b6, and it's at this point that black doesn't follow what he needs to do, and ends up getting a very bad game. What could black do here? Well, if you're going to sit, you might want to try redeploying things. This knight can go to here and here. That'll cover h6 so that the rook can move, so that the bishop can move and get off and get into e7. I'm not sure where that's going, but I'm trying something to some kind of reasonable moves to come up with what black should do. Then maybe leave the bishop here, drop the rook over, and try to walk the king. Try to generate something on the h file. Queen h. Black does have queen h4 at some point. Maybe black can generate some play. But what black does is ends up just losing a material. Involves a temporary pawn sacrifice. But white's ready to act. Now he breaks with b4, the move he's supposed to do. And now white's threatening to capture on c5. And black's reply is virtually forced here. And here I was talking about a knight getting to b4 earlier by way of a2. Now this knight has gone there. The other knight has gone there. And c6 is looking very, very weak. Black covers that, but it's still going in. And there's a fork. And now suddenly white has these 2 powerful passed pawns that are threatening to just create all kinds of havoc. This will cost black a piece for 2 pawns. Black elects to sacrifice the exchange, but he doesn't really get anything for it other than he's going to get rid of these weak pawns. But black still has weak pawns on the board, d6 and a6. And all white does from this point on is just like slowly maneuver, and black is left without much of a plan of action at all. Now, probably black should have just sat pat, but then again, black can't sit forever. He's down. He only has a pawn compensation for the exchange. So this actually weakens black's king more than it weakens white's king. And black can't afford to trade queens. And now the white attack is coming. Okay, here's a check. And now a mate threat. And black defends that with tempo. White just parks his queen on a very aggressive square. Threatens a mate. Black covers it. Chases the queen here. White sacrifices a pawn because he can do it. And now white has a serious threat. The threat is rook f1, followed by rook takes f6. And it's pretty much hopeless for black. And after rook f1 here, he resigned because, you know, the queen goes anywhere safe. Rook takes f6 is deadly. And just to show you, suppose black had retreated his... Well, he can't retreat his queen. He didn't... His alternative would have been to stay on the second rank. Let's just pick e7 for the sake of argument. You know, it just seems to me that white's just got a killer position here. If you can eliminate this knight, there's a mate. Well, it's not really a mate threat if the bishop takes back, but it might be because queen could take. You know, white's just for choice here. He can triple up on the open file and get ready to swing a rook to the h file, and black has absolutely nothing. Anyway, well played by Tactiquero. If this line is very difficult to play for black, you don't want to do this with your knights in the queen's in or the king's Indian. Anyway, I thank everyone for their time. I'll be back soon with another video.